In 2008, a friend and fellow waitress with me at the Village Inn in El Paso, Ana Elba Morales, was killed when a driver raced past an intersection into her car, killing her. Her young children are growing up in a world without Ana. Raise your hand if you know someone who's lost their life in a road crash or almost lost their life in a road crash. We live in a country where nearly everyone's raised their hand, but it doesn't have to be this way. Road crashes are a top killer in America. Far more people die on US roads than in any other similarly incomed country, even those with similar rates of car ownership. For every 100,000 US residents, 12 will die on our roads each year. In New Zealand, only 8. In spacious Canada and Australia, half that, 6. And in Germany and Spain, a third, only 4. And within the US, Albuquerque is number 1 for cyclist fatalities and number 2 for pedestrian fatalities. And it's not much better for drivers either. The I-40 segment that runs through Albuquerque is the most dangerous highway segment in the entire country. And that's in clear conditions. New Mexico is number 5 for automotive deaths. We often blame alcohol and substance abuse, although New Mexico and Albuquerque are near or below the average for excessive drinking and substance abuse. We tend to focus our efforts on education, like asking drivers to not speed or to watch out for pedestrians. But studies show these efforts don't decrease deaths. So it might start to seem that daily road fatalities have to be a fact of life. We've been missing the one thing that made widespread traffic fatalities a thing of the past in these other countries: road design. We can design for safety, or we can design for speed. And in the US, and New Mexico especially, our roads are still designed for speed. Take the Albuquerque downtown segments. Lomas, Martin Luther King, Central, Lead, Cole. These were designed for speeds of 50 miles an hour. The long, wide, and straight roads of the grid system make speeding and racing easier than in other cities. US urban traffic engineers have now come to recognize that 1, traffic infrastructure influences behavior, and 2, people are always going to make mistakes, and these mistakes don't have to lead to deaths. Some of the things that we can do include narrowing wide roads by replacing excess lanes with greenery, or wider sidewalks, or bicycle lanes. So these not only create safe spaces for pedestrians and cyclists, they also make speeding uncomfortable. And slower speeds means fewer collisions, and any collisions are less likely to lead to deaths, which means safer roads for drivers too. We can also make better crosswalks, wider and more signalized crosswalks with paint jobs that make the intersections very hard to miss. Also, we can bump out the curb at intersections to make less of a roadway for pedestrians to have to cross, and it makes pedestrians more visible. And we can also give pedestrians a few seconds head start with traffic signals. It's with changes like this that the Netherlands went from having a similar traffic fatality rate as America to now one of the lowest in the world, a full 70% lower. And it was actually with incremental changes like this, because in the 1970s, the Netherlands actually looked a lot like America. It was car-centric and sprawling. But thanks to the fierce activism of grieving parents who were angry and tired of losing their children to road crashes, now the Netherlands is top ranked for pedestrians, cyclists, but also drivers, although it took street fights and protests along the way. Some US cities have had impressive results by following a national program called Vision Zero. After implementing Vision Zero, Hoboken, New Jersey, of 60,000 people, hasn't had a single traffic fatality since 2018. That's 4 years of no more families having that same phone call that Anna's family received. Also, Fremont, California, achieved a traffic fatality rate of just 2.1 per 100,000. So why haven't we done this in more cities? I know everybody wants fewer traffic fatalities. A lot of cities have signed on to Vision Zero, though they come across three main obstacles in implementation. 1, transportation departments. Some still have an internal culture that values speed over safety. So they'll resist any changes like the ones I listed if it slows down drivers. 2, local residents. Sometimes local residents are wary of changes near them, especially like narrowing roadways, fearing more traffic. Luckily, studies show this doesn't increase traffic, but it does slow drivers down, which is how we save lives. And number 3, from the top, political leaders and state and federal regulations. For example, that same federal manual that makes all the traffic signs look the same across America also says that cities shouldn't install new signalized crosswalks unless 75 pedestrians are crossing there per hour. Or 5 pedestrians have to get struck in a single year before determining maybe it's worth slowing down drivers. Advocating for public transportation like buses and trains, or the walkable neighborhoods America used to have pre-1960s also helps. Another big determinant of traffic fatality rates is number of miles driven per day. Corner grocery stores and duplexes are not legal in much of America, though our modern car-centric design comes at a cost of 40,000 lives per year and 470 in New Mexico. So if you'd like to do more, I invite you to join your local walk, bicycle, public transit, or urban advocacy groups. Help us urge our leaders to do away with outdated regulations and invest in better infrastructure. It's an uphill battle to get safer streets. So we need everyday people like you and me on board, but we can start in our community. I know Anna's life was worth it. Your loved ones' lives are worth it. You're worth it.